Hey guys, just wanted to kind of close out on what I was trying to show you during the masterclass at 4. There was something I quite clearly did wrong because I tried it after the session and everything seems to work fine. So I thought I'll quickly shoot a small video and walk you through what I want to show you. So we were at a point where I had finished, kind of uh, setting up the product, and I was talking about how it would be nice for you to keep all of the VUAs and the product codes and the IDs and secrets somewhere safe so that when you actually get down to using it, this is how you can use it. So the first API that we started with is the request consent, right? So let's fill out the headers for this, right? So I'm going to go to my table, copy it with the client secret. Go and say ABS0021. And then the app name, right? So that is com.myexample.app. I'm going to paste that here and I'm all set. So now let me go to the body and I'm going to set the product ID, right, which is what I have here, which is what I set up all the consent parameters for. And let's say I'm going to now set this for, um, you know, James Bond, so 007, and that's the account ID, right? So now if I hit the endpoint, so there you go. So now it says that a consent request has been placed. The status is pending. So kind of the message that comes back with something called a consent handle. Now ignore that for a second. Now you want to mimic the behavior of the consumer. So you want to go to Onemoney web app, right? And when you, let's say, refresh on the dashboard, so you now see AVS Unicorn having placed a new consent request, right? And that's the time right now. That's 5:23. So that's exactly. So it shows the activity log. So consent has been requested 5:23. You click on it, you should be able to see all the parameters that you set up. So the purpose, the account types, the components of data that you need, the historical duration of data, frequency of data pull, data deleted after how much time, and so on and so forth. And then when you approve, you're asked for a consent pin. You set that up, and you're all set. Right? So now the consumer's done his job. He's approved the consent request that you raised. Now you want to know, from FinPro, if it has received notification from the account aggregator, which is Onemoney in this case, saying, "Hey, I sent a consent request. What happened? Get me the list of consents that may have been received." Right? So the API that you need to call now for that is something called get consents list, right? So let's fill out the headers again. So this time I'm going to just ensure that I do a bulk edit, right? And I'm going to go here and look at this and just copy all the headers. I'm going to paste that, right? And then the details of the party and the product ID and the account ID. So I need now to know what happened, right, for the same customer who was interested in the same product, right, and the application number that the customer had been given during origination, let's say it's a loan, was this. Right? So now I look for get consents list. Voila. So it gives me the details of the actual consent artifact. So this is the consent artifact. It has something called a consent ID. It has got all the details that were there in the consent request, plus it's got the actual details of the accounts, the link reference number, the master account number, the type of account that the consumer has included in the consent, right? So now what you need to do, you need to actually use this to ask FinPro, saying, okay, now give me the data. And what is FinPro doing, and what it should have done already by now, is FinPro has actually orchestrated the data requests without any intervention from you, where it has placed a data request on Onemoney with the same consent ID, and it has initiated a data request by default. So by default, as soon as FinPro receives an approved consent, it immediately fires a data request, right? So all you need to do is you need to basically click on or invoke this API called get all FI data. So let me again copy the same headers, right? Let's see. So let me just copy the headers from the previous API. So I'm going to go to bulk, paste, and then let's look at what the body needs. The body needs a consent ID, right? So where was the consent ID? The consent ID was basically in response to the get consents list, right? So I copy that and I paste it here. Now I should be actually getting all the data, and yes, I do. So now it's actually gone. So behind the scenes, FinPro, the FIU service, has connected with Onemoney, which is connected to the mock bank and orchestrated the data pull. And data was waiting for you to call. When you called get all FI data, FinPro gives you all the information. And this is readily usable information. No decryption, nothing required. You're good to go. All right. Great. So that's kind of like the brief demo I want to kind of close out for the masterclass. Do reach out for any questions, guys. Thanks a lot.